elemental powers have quickly become a staple of the Ninjago TV series, and I especially love it when they introduce more unique powers. And today, I just wanted to talk about one that's a little more interesting. That is, of course, being the elemental power of Amber. When we were first introduced to the elemental power of Amber, we learn that its user, when they touch an individual, can absorb and mimic the abilities of another elemental master. And boy, when I first saw this power, I'm like, whoa, this is so cool. And not gonna lie, a little overpowered. That means they can just touch a bunch of people and they just have all these powers. And for a while, we're like, oh, sheesh. Skylar's kind of overpowered. But then later in Crystallized, we actually learn that this is actually only temporary. She can only temporarily copy the power until it runs out. And at first, part of me was disappointed, but at the same time, I think it actually made it a lot better. Because there's a lot more potential for great stories with these kind of limitations. I mean, take Green Lantern, for example. He has to recharge his ring every 24 hours. Or take Pyro from the X-Men. He can only manipulate fire that already exists. He can't create it and shoot it out of his hands. And look how awesome those stories are. I mean, those are some of the best comic book characters ever. And it's because of these limitations, the story with these powers and everything is able to be more interesting. I think the same is with Ninjago. And I'm not giving Crystallize any major praise, but one thing I really appreciate that it did was how it handled the elemental power of Amber. How Skylar used her powers in more sparing, smart ways. It just makes it more interesting. Because yes, I love just straight up elemental powers, just shooting lightning out of your hands or whatever, but I really like it when the elemental powers have a little bit of a twist and sometimes a limitation. It makes great stories and great arcs, and that's why I think that's one of the biggest reasons I think Skylar is one of the most well-developed characters in the show, is because of her limitation with her powers. Even Sora, before she unlocked her true potential, that was a pretty interesting story. And you know, I hope we get more interesting stories like this. I mean, not even necessarily those kind of limitations, but just making the power work a little bit differently. And not just be like, oh, I just fire this out of my hands. Or, oh, I just teleport, or what. Just make them more interesting. I think that would just be really cool. But that'll be it for the video, guys. Hope you enjoyed, and I'll talk to you soon. Adios.